Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, be sure to check out our show on our YouTube channel. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
Movies, the final media empire. These are the Reviews Without Remorse. Its continuing mission to review strange new films, to seek out new art and film innovation, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. I'm David, he's Joe, and this is episode 111, and in this show we will discuss the Child's Play remake, for me at least, has gone from meh to as Mark Hamill confirms he will play the voice of Chucky the doll. Shane Rimmer, a name you probably don't know, but a man who was the quintessential, hey, it's that guy, has died. Joe and I will pay tribute. And then, could this have been the course correction needed to save the franchise? Let's find out as Joe and I discuss the currently final chapter to the Kelvin timeline, Star Trek Beyond. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, my partner, and nano to you.
Nano, you classless person, that is not the same as Star Trek, sir.
I can't say live long and prosper, that's for the end, but
Where is he? He's never been this late before. There's a certain rhythm to these things. I cause trouble, he shows up. We have some laughs and the game starts all over again. Only now, thanks to you, I have this terrible feeling he's really not coming.
So, the remake is being written by Don Mancini and Taylor Burton Smith. Well, excuse me. It was originally written by, the original was written by Don Mancini. It's currently being written by Taylor Burton Smith. Taylor Burton Smith, currently, as a writer, has done Kung Fury and a video game called Quantum Break.
I would say it on Kung Fury alone.
All right. Lars Klevberg is the director of the Child's Play remake. Now, Lars Klevberg has done such things as Polaroid and a short called The Wall. And that's about it. And as a matter of fact, Polaroid is a movie that, it was a short that's now becoming a full-length movie, and it technically has only just been released or is about to be released. Nope, it was released in it was released in January. So, yes. These are not really known quantities. And yet, I hear that Mark Hamill is in the movie, and my ass is in the seat. What is wrong with me?
Yeah, you did a quick turnaround as soon as you heard that. I know he's a damn good Joker. Do you think he'll pull off a good Chucky?
I don't see why not. The man can play. You know, it's funny because he was recently on the TV show The Flash. Not many people remember this, but Mark Hamill, there was a 90s version of The Flash with a Flash suit that kind of looked almost like a bat costume.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember that.
All right, Mark Hamill played the character of the Flash villain, the Trickster. You know, the Flash's version of the Joker, if you want to say. Okay, and back then when he was, young and stuff like that, and he was doing the whole, and so on and so forth, it was pretty okay. Recently, he was in the new Flash show as the Trickster again, and look, Mark, I love you, but your facial expressions when you're an old man and trying to be this character just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But your voice is golden when you're being malevolent. So, yeah, I'm more excited about hearing him do that. I might just be like, you know what, screw seeing the movie, just somebody give me an audio recording of the movie. That'll be all I need.
Okay. I guess we'll have to discuss it when it comes out.
I mean, it's supposed to come out June of this year, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm still really not interested in seeing it. I did not like the teaser trailer. I didn't think there was anything in it that, brought anything new to the table. But I have an irrational love for this man, and I am not ashamed to say it. Okay?
Well, after being unceremoniously dismissed from the Star Wars franchise, I'm very excited to see him doing other work.
That armor plating must be inches thick. We'll never get through it.
This goes to the armory.
What do you reckon to find there?
A nuclear missile.
Hey, wait!
165 acting credits to Shane Rimmer. This man had a unique face. He had a unique voice. He has been in... his earliest introduction into the world of film was not film, but his biggest claim to fame for a short time there was he was the voice of Scott Tracy in the original Thunderbirds TV show. Do you remember Thunderbirds?
I do, yeah.
Okay. But the man has been steadily working since 1957. Seriously, if you go to his IMDb page, there isn't a year gap anywhere for this guy. Just go through it. I'm scrolling through it right now, and I'm like, where's the gap? Where's the gap? No gap, no gap. Okay, here we go. There's a gap between 2001 and 2003. Well, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. He really is something else. This guy, he's been in several James Bond films.
Yes.
A couple of the Superman films. He was in Batman Returns. I've seen people.
Batman Begins.
Yeah. Excuse me. Batman Begins. When he just shows up, like you said, he's like, oh yeah, there. He's so recognizable. It was great. I've seen people do these things on Facebook where they just take random pictures of him in different films, and you just start going, oh yeah, what's that one? Oh yeah, what's that one? I saw the picture of him from Superman 3, and I remember seeing it going, I remember him saying something about Wildfire. Which one was that in? And everybody's like, Superman 3. I'm like, yeah, that was it. So yeah, he really does have just a lot of credits. He really had a substantial body of work, and again, seriously, multiple James Bond films. Just to name a few.
Yep. All the way to the end of his life. It's only within the last 2 years that it looks like he's not been working. I assume that would have to do with whatever illness he may have been fighting. He was born May 28th, 1929 in Toronto, Canada. He died on March the 29th in England, it appears. Married to the same woman for his entire life since 1963 up until his death. 3 children.
Mm.
He was in Gandhi, as you mentioned, Superman 2.
He was actually in all 3 Christopher Reeves. He was in the first 3 of the Christopher Reeves, yeah.
Yes. He was also in Doctor Strangelove. He also had an extremely brief scene in Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Yep. Out of Africa, Reds, Julia. This guy, man, you have to wonder if directors at one point were like, this guy's a good luck charm. Well, maybe except for Superman 3.
Yeah, well, he wasn't in Superman 4, so that could tell you something.
Yeah, I guess maybe he just was like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah. Yeah, but again, very, very good. That he is missed because again, it was great seeing him in all kinds of things.
Agreed. So yes, Shane Rimmer, his name was, ladies and gentlemen, Shane Rimmer. You've seen the face, you've heard the voice. That was his name. Rest in peace, my man.
Farewell, my friend. Thank you for the memories.
My dad joined Starfleet because he believed in it. I joined on a dare.
You joined to see if you could live up to him. You spent all this time trying to be your father, and now you're wondering just what it means to be you.
It isn't uncommon, you know. It's easy to get lost in the vastness of space. There's only yourself, your ship, your crew.
You really want to head back out there, huh?
The crew of the USS Enterprise explores the furthest reaches of uncharted space, where they encounter a new, ruthless enemy who puts them and everything the Federation stands for to the test. Written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung, based on the television series created by Gene Roddenberry, directed by Justin Lin, Star Trek Beyond. So, the first 11 minutes of this movie is outstanding.
Yes.
Out-frickin' standing. So Star Trek from beginning to end. So right up to, even when they got to the Yorktown station at the 11-minute mark and he finds out about Ambassador Spock, I just was so much, all the characters just gelled perfectly in a way that I didn't expect the characters to do. Like I was kind of beating myself over the head. You had actually predicted this too. You totally predicted this from last week when I said, "Hey, you know what? I like how the interactions are getting closer to the original one."
Yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, you should probably hold that until Star Trek Beyond." I stand corrected. You were right, sir. The camaraderie here, the chemistry, all of that here, all of that with all the characters was perfect. Like so much so that I kind of was starting to feel like, because we know a lot of the inside baseball now about the early days and how a lot of the actors didn't particularly care for, say, William Shatner, and every once in a while they'd have kind of pissing matches between the other co-actors and stuff like that. Yeah. So, you hear about that, and yet here I kind of feel like, no, I feel like these people actually do genuinely like each other. Because even with the old stuff, you can kind of sort of see like, I'm acting with you in this scene and I'm acting like I love you, but totally I would punch you in the face. Whereas in this movie, they really did seem like a nice cohesive unit. And if this is the last one, I'm very upset because it's like they finally got their stride and they could really go into some really great directions, and yet now it's over, especially with Anton Yelchin now being deceased.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and it is a shame that we are at this moment in Star Trek. Star Trek is a magnificent vehicle that has blown a gasket and is now parked on the side of the road, at least for a while. But to get back to what you said about the first 11 minutes, I completely agree. And I remember specifically as I was watching this again. But by the way, this is not the first time you've seen it, right? You've seen this prior?
No, this is my second time. I just hadn't thought about it in a while.
Okay. The first 11 minutes, you're absolutely right, that is absolutely spectacular. And I watched it again this time around thinking to myself, wow, I mean, they instantly... I'm getting more in the first 11 minutes of this film than I did in the whole entire last one. And I mean 100%. That. I really mean that. I felt like it was almost like it's as if like somebody had listened to all my complaints last week about all the things that film was lacking, and they made sure it was front and center in this one. This was much more about space exploration, about the crew of the Enterprise, about alien life, about all of these different things. And like you said, the sit down alone. Well, first of all, the opening with Kirk, with the aliens was again very good, very funny. Again, more alien life than we saw in the whole entire last film. It was a funny opening and very good. But then you get to the little sit down with McCoy and Kirk over a little product placement, by the way. But a very awkward product placement, I thought. I mean, I wouldn't even have minded except for that label wasn't so like right in your face. I was like, wow. Hey, somehow Glenn Fiddick figured out how to get into a Star Wars movie. Well done. But anyway, it was a good scene. But the sit down with the two of them together, already, I'm saying to myself, this alone, again, puts the last film to shame. I'm getting more from this scene alone, watching just the two of them sit down and talking. Again, like for a film like Into Darkness that was trying to ape Wrath of Khan, this was the moment you should have grabbed from the Wrath of Khan. Kirk and Bones sitting there talking about getting older and what life is all about. So yeah, I completely agree that it really does a spectacular job. The kickoff is great, and then you're right, what a great moment when they arrive there and they work in the idea of Leonard Nimoy passing. Like, how great was that? I mean, that was terrific. I thought, what a fitting tribute, and the way they worked that into the story was so... The word that comes to mind is poignant. It was really well done, and I love the fact that it gave young Spock cause to reflect on where he is in this world, and just so good. So I really can't praise it more highly in that respect. And by the way, here's a little just minor detail that I thought was worth mentioning. I liked the fact that they made Sulu a gay man. I thought that was, and that was sort of a moment that I feel like, again, like I would probably be the one that you're waiting. Oh, Joe's gonna say something about this. He's gonna, again.
No, actually, not at all. But go on.
I mean, again, in the days of Last Jedi and them trying to sort of force new social norms into films when they just look so awkward, like you went out of your way to put something in there. This was something that was very natural. It was like they had a good opportunity to work a real life thing into this film in a way that, again, doesn't change the dynamic of Sulu. It doesn't. I mean, it was a really well done moment, and I liked it. Again, like I said, I mean, I feel like there's people when they're writing trying to wedge things in that just sort of feel awkward, but here there was a naturalness to it. Because the actor who played the original Sulu happened to be a gay man, so they sort of put that in here as another kind of a tribute to the real life actors, and again, a way to put something in there that maybe people feel we need more of. Here, it felt very natural, so I thought it was very good. I thought that was terrific.
It's funny because actually, didn't Takai come out and like say no, that wasn't the intention of the character, or anything like that?
I think he very well might have, which again is interesting and probably gives him some credit, because I guess his point is, yes, I happen to be gay in real life does not mean that character was gay, and I was not necessarily playing a gay character, which again is another absolutely positively fair point. I see that side of it as well, but again for a franchise and for a not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but again, I know that the sensitive people in Hollywood like to put social things in there and have more representation of this, that, and the other. Every demographic has to be represented, which to me, again, can very easily go wrong because it just comes off as tokenism. Right. We need a token this, we need a token that, we need a token that. We got all our bases covered, we're good. So again, it just comes out as very clumsy and awkward and downright immoral, in my humble opinion, because again, it's tokenism, and I think that is wrong. But again, this was an opportunity they had to do it with sort of a logic to it, and I thought it made sense. So I almost felt like the people who I got off into a tangent real early.
It's okay. It honestly, to me, bringing something like that, we currently are accused of being overreactionaries. We're accused of being anti-feminist. We're accused of being anti-gay, and all these other things. And it sucks that we actually have to spend time to defend the fact that no, we're actually not. We just want reasonable stories without it being. If this is a story about a gay couple, that's fine. We don't mind seeing a story about a gay couple. Yeah. But this is Star Trek. It's not supposed to be about a gay couple. It's supposed to be. If you make a big deal about something in the under the guise of wanting to be progressive, inclusion, whatever fancy term you want to throw in there, Just remember that the best way to do inclusion is to not make a big deal of it.
Right. I mean, I am absolutely not a new sensitive man of the new generation. I get that, but yeah, like you said, right. If it fits with the story, it works. And again, like when The Last Jedi, when Poe walks onto the bridge and to speak to the new captain, the new pink-haired captain, and every person in the shot is a female. The entire bridge is nothing but females. It looks weird. Like that does not make any sense. I'm sorry, unless there's a reason for this. This is again completely different. It was a scene where they arrive at a place where they can meet their loved ones and have some downtime. It was a passing shot. There was a rhythm to it. There was a logic to it, and I thought, awesome, go for it. Again, we need more of this. We need more of that. Here is a great example of where it works. So, boom, well done.
Thank you very much. Hey, you know what else didn't happen in this movie? Kirk didn't get laid.
Oh, right. Yeah. Wow. Actually, that's a good point. That's a good point. When he was having it, when he was going at it two at a time in the last one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. You mean he has to focus on something else and he's not going, hey, ladies?
And you would think, like, I guess they kind of, maybe they were going to, who knows, but you would think, okay, there's the white-faced, black-eyed alien,
Yeah.
Jayla, and you figure, oh, well, that's who Kirk's going to bang in this one, and darn it, he didn't bang her.
You're absolutely right. There were a lot of opportunities. Even the one that they find who ends up betraying them, they could have finessed that script just a little bit differently and have had them be a little romantic before she betrays him. So there was opportunity galore, and they decided not to, and I'm pleased. Thank you. So what else? Yeah, I really did enjoy the fact that it opens up and they're on their 5-year mission and they're talking about it. I mean,
3 years into their 5-year mission. Yes.
Yeah. Which and part of me, honestly, when I saw it was kind of like, okay. I wouldn't have minded it if they just started out in the first year when everything is kind of new and hey, let's do some exploring. They kind of fast forwarded to where like fatigue is already setting in. So I remember kind of going like, well, that's okay. It's almost like in the James Bond movies when they sort of fast forward now and every time, you turn around, he's got to go rogue and, it's like, can he not go rogue once in a while? I almost had the same vibe with this. I was like, all right, I wouldn't have minded it if they're actually enjoying the trip and this is new and exciting and they're exploring. We're already tired of it. Well, okay. But, that was a very minor point. And honestly, I thought that the little captain's log and he's kind of narrating a little bit about what's going on, that there was a logic to that too. So I didn't mind that.
Was that the first captain's log in the Kelvin timeline?
You know what? I'm not. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they did that in the first one, but it was kind of very superfluous. They didn't really do it much. I think it was.
But was it even Kirk in the first? Oh no, it was Spock.
I think Spock. Right. I seem to recall Spock doing it. I don't think Kirk ever got around to it. So yeah, I think this might be the first time we saw Kirk do it. So
yeah, seriously, and fall right in line with the way the series used to do it.
Yeah, and frankly, I think you know who deserves a lot of credit. I think is Simon Pegg. I think that he is the one who is the Trek fan and stepped up and said, you know what, let's kind of give credit where it's due. Let's respect the show and do a little more of what the show was doing. And so I noticed a lot more elements in that respect. I almost found like this was interesting. It was almost for the first time, like the first. If this was the second film, I think we would have had a really nice little series going. If the whole Into Darkness just didn't happen and we went right to this one, I really do think you would have had something special. Again, I kind of felt like the first one was, again, it was the rock and roll Star Trek, but it paid enough respect to the source material that you were like, all right, okay, I can go with this. The second one just went off the rails. But here now they get back. Again, it's still kind of got that rock version of Star Trek, but with enough of what made the show unique to that you could run with it a little more. Right. This one I think is very respectful of the original series. Not a purist Trek fan's dream, but pays it enough respect.
I agree completely. I do have one little thing. The mention about it in the middle of the 3-year mission, and I'm not saying that it works, but I think I see where they were trying to go with it. The whole point with Kirk and Spock was their identity and what they were. Okay? Spock was trying to figure out what his identity was now that Ambassador Spock was dead, and should he devote his life to rebuilding Vulcan. Kirk, after 5 years in space, was kind of growing a little stagnant, which is why he wanted to become a vice admiral for the Yorktown.
Yeah.
All right? And then at the end, when Edison, Call, but it was kind of sort of Edison, but we'll get to that, is saying, I know who, I've been listening to your logs, I know who I am. I think that's what they were trying to do with it. My problem is I don't think they gave enough to demonstrate that type of theme. They were looking to do a theme about an identity of who you are in this universe when you've accomplished so much of the goals that you set out for yourself.
Yeah.
Like he said in the beginning, I joined. My dad believed in Starfleet. I joined Starfleet on a dare.
Yes, right. I thought the conversation with Bones accomplishes that much better than the idea of him sort of being stagnant in his job. Because honestly, if I do have a criticism of that, it's the idea that the first 3 years were so uneventful that people are getting bored. And I kind of felt like that's not, like I said, I am intentionally thinking very deeply into a very minor point. But when you hear that, the vibe you get is that the first 3 years were pretty uneventful, which, that doesn't sync with the Star Trek that I remember. So that was kind of why I thought that maybe not quite the right road to go down, but again, good enough. I mean, you could have had, almost the opposite. We've got all this crazy stuff going on, and I never know, am I making the right decisions? And, that would lead into, well, you were trying to be George Kirk. Maybe it's time to be Jim Kirk or such and such.
Right.
So again, minor point. But again, I did sort of go, okay, when I heard that.
Yeah, I'll buy that on you. But now, there is one other thing I do have to bring up, and this is one that's kind of bothering me. We need to talk about Edison / Call.
Yes. Go on.
Now, Idris Elba is a hell of an actor, and the man throws himself into a role like nobody's business. But I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the motivation was for his villainy.
Yes.
Still trying to figure it out. Do you have any insight into this, Joe? Maybe you saw something that I didn't see.
I do not, and I'm sort of wholeheartedly agreeing with where you're headed, because I honestly said to myself, I've seen it before. I watched it again yesterday, and I said to myself, I got to admit, I still don't get what the whole plot and plan is with this villain. I don't understand how he went from being a human to this really weird alien who needs to suck the energy out of humans to become human again. I never got it. I could just be a little slow, and it could have went right over my head. But I just couldn't understand what that was about. And yes, I didn't understand. And again, I almost felt like the whole renegade Starfleet guy. Yeah, did we need that? I don't know. Again, I think the movies are so, they seem to be so under pressure to do movies with these like weird, quirky twists that, it was one of our own guys all along. But I don't really understand why that's better than if you just had a full-blown villain who's just an alien or such and such, or, I don't know. So the idea that the plot twist is that he is a Starfleet officer, I didn't quite get it, and I didn't get why he was so upset with Starfleet. I feel like I've seen that sort of done before, and I don't quite get it. Oh, they left us out there, or something about it. Like I said, I don't really get my head around it.
It's a cliche plot. It is the whole, they have abandoned me, so I will have my revenge. It is the worst type of villain motivation that you've got out there. Yeah. It is akin to Steppenwolf coming down and looking for the mother boxes just so they can make Earth like Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's okay. What for? Can you explain that to me? It's almost Bond villain territory, but you expect the Bond villains to kind of be these quirky, over the top
cliches. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't expect that really here. It's like there's this weird Khan effect. Ever since the second Star Trek, ever since Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, there has been this problem with the Star Trek movies where they feel like they need a villain as a form of conflict. And I'm kind of like getting sick of that.
Yeah.
As a plot for Star Trek, because we had a decent one in Nero, with completely understandable motivations. You had a questionable one in Khan, whose motivations, who the hell knows?
Were baffling, frankly. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then you have this one, and it's like, a part of me is like, yes, fine, I can see it. I've been abandoned. I'm a military man. I'm trying to start war. Well, isn't that Admiral Marcus all over again? Aren't you now repeating yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, you mentioned Nero, and I you know, again, you could even argue that has got some, it's similar in a way, but that was very well written. There was a complexity to that story that I didn't find that the whole thing was just kind of, I mean, this one just felt like a much simpler, dialed down version of that, where it's like, oh, me and my crew got lost and we didn't, they didn't find us, so therefore, we're gonna get them. I don't get that.
Here's the thing. Why does it always have to be a quote-unquote villain? You know, one of my favorite Star Treks, when we actually do the classic Star Trek movies, one of my favorites is Star Trek VI. Who's the villain in that? A bunch of people, because it was a conspiracy movie, basically. Yeah. Okay? There was no, like, clear... you know, some will argue, General Chang. Well, no, General Chang was an adversary. General Chang was, like, you know... The enemy in this movie was prejudice. And... those who aren't committed to change. That's who the real enemy was in that movie. And I love that. I love stuff like that. I love abstracts as the enemy. And I understand it's easier to grab onto something tangible for this audience, especially when you have a movie that has established itself as high octane action and so on and so forth, and it's being directed by one of the Fast and the Furious guys. And I mean, I don't mean that as an offense. I'm not a Fast and the Furious fan by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't mean that as offense to Justin Lin or anything like that. But there is a cliche with those movies where it's like so black and white with this is good, this is bad, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, so on and so forth. And in Star Trek, that's not fair. Because there's always layers. It's never as simple or straightforward. It should never be as simple or straightforward as that. You should have at least a modicum of sympathy for your villain in order for this to work. A modicum. I'm not saying you have to agree with the villain, but there has to be at least some connection between the audience and the villain to at least be able to say, oh, okay, you know, I can get that motivation. And look at all the great villains. Thanos. Some people say, you know, you should go back that Thanos should have stuck with the Death One. It's like, no, there's something, it's megalomaniacal, but it's understandable. And even Khan with his vengeance, like it was just not as simple as just, you know, I am a, you know, maniacal vengeance-seeking son of a bitch. You know, there's a logic to his anger, and you can almost kind of feel for the guy for his anger against Kirk. You don't root for him, but you feel for him. This guy, besides having some pretty cool looking makeup every once in a while, I felt nothing for. Yeah. When those things were starting to consume him, when the technology was starting to consume him at the end, you know, I felt nothing. I was like, okay, just another bad guy gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, it is a colossal waste of Idris Elba. I mean,
tremendous, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who took this role, it's an incredibly thankless role, and it's not. I mean, if you took somebody to see this film and you said to them, "Oh, Idris Elba, he's a really good actor." Oh, really? What's he been in? Well, watch him in this. Would anybody watch this and be like, "Oh, yeah, he's really good"? No, he's so wasted in this. I mean, the man, and incidentally too, I kind of did feel that the makeup, the mask, and like I said, I didn't even understand, like, is he supposed to be an alien? Did he get infected by an alien or something or other? I didn't quite get what he was supposed to be.
All right. Here's what it is.
Okay.
It's told extremely poorly. Basically, the technology that he's able to use to extend his life requires him to drain the quote-unquote life force, putting it simply, drain the life force of a living creature.
Mm-hmm.
And because there were no humans on the planet that they crash landed on, he basically drained the life force of whatever indigenous thing he could find. And doing that causes his body to shift and change to match the DNA of whatever it is he's draining. And you'll notice that, like, when we first see him, he's almost got that, like, cobra-like hood on his head,
mm-hmm.
you know, like the, you know, so on and so forth. But when he drains the two Starfleet people, when Uhura's freaking out, and he's draining the two Star Trek people, the Starfleet people, you find then now his head has become a little smoother, and the reptilianness has been, taken away.
Yeah.
So I give the movie credit for trying, but it never fully explained exactly what that process was, because they were trying to keep the surprise of, oh, look, it's a Starfleet officer till the end.
Okay, all right. So I guess the idea is that he lands on the planet with the lizard people, so he drains their energy first. So I guess he would have been dead of old age had he not been doing this.
Yeah, because it was 100 years. He was on that planet for 100 years.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You're right. And this was a little okay. My feeble brain is starting to get it. So we started looking like the lizard people because he was draining their energy. So then when the humans come down, he drains theirs, which makes him look more human again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's looking at himself like, oh, wow, I haven't seen myself in so long. Or so. Okay, all right, I'm getting it. Yeah, not told very well.
Exactly. That's the point. That's exactly the point. It's not that the idea isn't compelling. It's that I had to think about that.
Right.
It's not very obvious that that's it. I had to think about that, and admittedly, go to a couple of fan sites to be like, what's your thoughts on this? And people gave opinions, and I just kind of latched on the one that made the most sense. So yeah, it's not very. It's like they focused more on the action, which I understand. The action is what they feel is going to put things in the seat, and after that first opening 10 minutes where they truly focused on character, when they make a mistake like that, it becomes jarring.
Right.
Because now it's like, I feel like, oh, this is a good little character piece. It's like, okay, well, now we've got the villain. Let's see what the character piece on this villain is, and it's paint by numbers.
Yeah.
And the thing about this movie, here's one thing that I really, really liked about this movie. Okay, you could have easily watched this movie without having watched the first two.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, yeah.
Okay? You get enough of each character's introduction at the time. You could say it's like a continuation of the original series easily, and people would be like, okay, because all the characteristics were there. So when you go to that much care to make sure that the characters look great, but don't go to the same amount of care for the villain, or potentially maybe there's like 30 minutes of this movie missing or something like that, because it moved at a really, really steady clip. Like, there was almost no breathing room in this movie at all.
Once it gets rolling, yeah.
Yeah, because like it gives you that slow build up in the first 10 minutes. It gives you that quick little action scene with the little creatures, which was hysterical. But then it gives you kind of like character. But then the minute they say, okay, we're going to this place, it was almost an onslaught of just constant beats, and very little characterization. With the exception of, the little asides between McCoy and Spock when they're off on their own, there really wasn't a lot more of the character stuff. And it was focused on the right characters, but they didn't give the villain enough of a characterization to the point that I enjoyed him as a villain.
Yeah. I'll disagree only slightly in the respect that I did think that they did give a lot of the supporting cast some stuff to do. I kind of thought Scotty meeting the girl, Jayla, I thought he was good with her. I thought that was pretty good. I love the scene when they're sort of rounding. They get back together on the bridge, and she's yelling, "I'm not gonna take you there. You're on your own, whatever." And Scotty goes to chase after her, and Kirk's like, let her go. And he turns around and goes, "She's lost people too." And it kind of shuts Kirk down. It kind of shuts him up a little bit. I thought that was a good moment. I thought Uhura over with the, she has a kind of self-sacrificing moment in the big battle, which was good. And she's, they give her some things to do on the planet. She's, she has to deal with the bad guy a lot. So I did think they at least gave they gave the supporting cast some good face time. Not a lot, but it gave them a chance to shine a little.
A little, yes. Enough. I felt enough. Yeah. I'm not complaining about my problem is that without a good villain, the rest of it is just, Yeah.
And that's agreed. I definitely agree with that. And like I said, I think he's wasted. And I did think it was funny that he kind of landed on the Krill home planet, I guess, by the way. Because that's exactly, that's all I could think of is that he looks like the Krill from the Orville.
Why hasn't the Orville been renewed yet? I'm sorry. That should really, I'm sorry.
I got some things to say about that. I'll hold it.
Okay, so let's talk about the other aspect of a good Star Trek movie. How about the special effects? I'm not 100% sure on that swarm idea as a viable option for attack or anything like that. But visually, man, they did a hell of a job making that look plausible.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think they did the whole swarm thing was really good, and even the part when they disrupt the swarm at the end and they all start blowing up little by little, I thought that was pretty cool. That kind of wave of fire that was sort of taking over the swarm, I thought that was pretty well done.
Visually, it looked gorgeous, yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know if I would, again, it kind of reminded me of what I said last week, but not nearly as offensive, but I do sort of, like when the swarm is attacking the ship and they're just completely outgunned. They have no idea how to fight this off. I kind of had a moment again where I'm like, you mean to tell me that they don't have any defenses against small ships? I mean, it's a lot of small ships. I mean, it is like a giant swarm of bees when you watch it. Effective, very effective. And again, it's believable that the swarm. But again, I did think of like a million little tiny ships against, okay, all right. I kind of thought, don't you have little things to protect against this sort of stuff? I mean, do you have any shields at all? I don't know.
Well, shields are only good against power blast. This isn't power blast. This is impacts. That's really what the problem is there, number one. This is my Star Trek nerd coming out. Number two, the secondary thing that would have been helpful is the forward array, the little round thing that's at the bottom of the ship that kind of in the original series kind of looked like a giant radar dish, but now is always this little blue thing. That thing both scans and emits. Now, like an EMP style thing from that probably could have disrupted the swarm. Yeah. But that was like the second thing they took out on the ship. That was like that was the first thing they took out on the Enterprise. Yeah. Once that was gone, and once it was established that they basically attacked the phaser arrays and everything like that, they did kind of give a lot of good logic as to why the ship couldn't fight back. Because once the forward sensor array was gone, once the phasers were gone, there was nothing they could do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think they did make the attack seem very believable. They knew the weak points. I have a flashback of Wrath of the Khan when Spock says they knew exactly where to hit us. Yeah. So that made a lot of sense. I think possibly if I were to do it slightly differently, I would have probably had the Enterprise be a little more successful in fending them off to an extent before running out of defense or just basically just getting overtaken. There's just too many, and we've taken out as many as we can, but we have run out of defenses or something. It just seems like as soon as they show up, they're just done. So again, this is a minor quibble. Pretty much all my quibbles with this movie are pretty minor.
Yeah. Well, except for the villain thing, I think that's kind of a big thing. But that's another.
To get back to your point about the special effects, by the way, I mean the effects are great. They really did a great job across the board.
Top of the line effects for the space battles and all that. It looked beautiful. The Yorktown was beautiful. What a wonderful design. I was watching it again and thinking to myself, how much of this is CG and how much is a model? Please tell me some of this is a model, because there's a lot of texture there in a lot of the shots, and I loved it. Yeah. I just love the little things that they did. Yeah. Even when the Enterprise is pulling into Yorktown and you could see in all the front windows and stuff like that. Thank you for stuff like that. Yeah. That was neat.
Yes, and incidentally, I did also think that the whole Yorktown thing was good. I didn't love it. I thought, I couldn't really get my head around what was sort of bugging me about it, but I almost felt like when McCoy says, it looks like a big giant snow globe in space, I kind of was like, yeah, it does. Like, you're right. I'm not sure what it was that was sort of rubbing me funny. I guess it almost seemed like, architecturally speaking, it was an inefficient design. Like it kind of, I mean, again, I know they're trying to be creative, and I know they're, you know, I kind of thought it was clever that it was almost like this big tapestry. I mean, it was like an Escher painting, you know, like an Escher drawing where, you know, logic is sort of out the window because as you look all around, some of the parts of the city are facing this way, some are facing that way, each with its own gravity, which of course comes into play later. So that, okay, again, comes full circle, so good. But I remember looking at it kind of going like, I almost just, it's almost like build me a Death Star, but only utilizing 15% of the actual space. You know, it was like the most inefficiently designed thing ever. But again, a lot of moments for creativity. There was a lot of things that looked pretty clever. Again, one of the things they do great in these films is they can really give you a sense of scale. You know, like when you see the Enterprise sort of moving past people, like it just does look massive. And I think that's one of the, more fun aspects of the whole thing.
I'm appearing before you as a neutral representative of the Fobonan Republic. I bring you a message of goodwill and present to you, esteemed members of the Tanaxi delegation, a gift from the Fobonan High Council with the highest regard.
What's wrong with it?
Excuse me?
Why don't they want it anymore?
Well, this was once a piece of an ancient weapon, and now they offer it as a symbol of peace. In the Fobonan culture, to surrender a weapon is an offer of truce.
How did they come by it?
They told me they acquired it a long time ago.
So they stole it then?
No, they, well...
You don't know the Fobonans like we do.
Yeah, that's very true. Your Excellency, this gift
They're a
is
crowd of untrustworthy thieves who want to see us murdered in our own beds.
This beloved artifact is a symbol of trust and peace.
They want to chop us into pieces and roast us over a fire.
I don't think that's true.
And eat us.
What?
You know what I didn't notice when I saw this movie that I noticed this time? And that was because when the movie was over, I got up and went to the bathroom because I was kind of like listening to the music, da 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 da, all that great sound and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm in the bathroom and everything like that, and it's still playing in the background because I come out and there's a song playing.
Uh-huh.
Over the closing credits. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was one thing earlier in the movie when they had Fight the Power, and then, the way that they kind of bookended the, sabotage, they used it in the first one, and then they used it here a little bit more effectively, I think, and kind of like bookend it. But then the closing credits is this song, it's called Sledgehammer, and it's being sung by Rihanna. And I was like, what production company insisted on this song? What the hell does this song have to do with Star Trek?
It's funny. I can't even remember now if I ever actually heard that, because I think by the time the credits started rolling and I just, shut it off. I don't know if I've ever actually heard it, but yeah, they make some weird decisions when it comes to just how they're going to market movies. And I guess they're trying to appeal to a demographic and get people, there's a Rihanna song in a new Star Trek movie. What? Okay, I'll go see it. Or I don't know. I really don't know what they think, but who knows?
It's funny. During the opening credits, I saw like 7 different production companies have their little opening titles.
Yeah, I almost thought I had the wrong version of the movie. There were so many weird production companies in there.
Yeah, one of them was Alibaba Productions.
Yeah.
All right. This is, based in Dubai. And there was like a lot of thank you to the Dubai police. Thank you to this. It's like, I thought this was filmed in Canada. Why is Dubai getting like all these thank yous and stuff like that? I can't help but wonder if this was like, this was like a producer edict, like some jackass from one of these things. Like, we need a song for over the credits. It's like, yeah, why? This is Star Trek? Like, no, we need a song. And just, it actually offended me when I heard this song. It offended me because, like, especially because, like, well, what is this song? It's called Sledgehammer, and I'm reading through the lyrics, and it's like, it's about a breakup. It's about a freaking breakup.
Ridiculous.
It's like, where does it fit to start? You know, ever since freaking Celine Dion wanted her heart to go on, every freaking movie has wanted to have like this closing Oscar-winning song or something like that. But like, that song was like written by like the composer as well as like 20 different, people that know how to do popular music. That's why it did what it did. What in the ever-loving hell? Is this the future? If this was the future of Star Trek, man, that's just, it's like, when they did Sabotage in the first one, I was like, okay, hee ha ha, I suppose I could deal with that. They did Fight the Power in this one, I was like, okay, I don't want to hear. After that happened, it's like, hey, listen, Trekkies, listen, hardcore Trekkies that still insist Discovery is better than the Orville. And mostly because the Orville is so obsessed with anachronistic music from the 80s and 90s. It's like, look at your grandpa's movie. Okay?
Yeah.
Seriously, weirdly enough, and I'm just gonna say it right now, that song knocked a point off of the score of this movie for me.
Wow. Holy cow.
I'm throwing it out right now. It's not exactly my Who Asked You, but I needed to get this off my chest because I was just floored in all the wrong ways for this damn song. And you know what? To me, it's indicative as to why we're not going to get another Star Trek movie. Okay, between the Glenn Moran product placement in the beginning and this song at the end. You can just feel someone was trying to figure out ways that they could squeeze more money into this with, a popular song, with, a product placement and stuff like that. And you have to wonder yourself if the next one was going to be even worse. If these were just like little teases.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I mean, they are, again, the people behind Star Trek are notorious for not getting Star Trek. I mean, I think Simon Pegg is probably, and again, I could be speaking out of school, but I'm not sure who, what, but I would be I'm pretty sure that Simon Pegg was probably the one in this whole crew that really understood Star Trek and really made a decision to try to make something that resembled Star Trek, while everyone around him is trying to make a mainstream film and treat it like a mainstream film by jamming in weird product placement like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that does not work. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's not just the song itself. It's the actual, not understanding Star Trek by doing things like that doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree with you. Do you remember? I'm pretty sure it was Amazing Spider-Man 2. That god awful POS. I remember one of the worst things in it. Well, maybe not one of the worst, but. I remember watching that movie.
There was a lot of bad in that movie. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that one. When you watch it to the end, and again, they're not an official Marvel. They're not a Marvel Studios movie, but they're trying to get on the. Oh look, we do. We
do universes.
Yeah, well, we do end credits sequence, post credit sequences. So when you watch that one, you wait for it, and all of a sudden, it's a scene from X-Men. So it's like. Okay, wait. So I'm watching a commercial for X-Men at the end of Spider-Man? Like, you guys aren't getting the whole idea here. I'm kind of getting the similar vibe with this.
That was the first Spider-Man movie, and yes, you're absolutely right. They put an advertisement for Days of Futures Past at the end of it.
Yep, that was it.
And you know what's funny? We spent a long time talking about Idris Elba and bagging on that and stuff like that, but the bottom line is this was still an entertaining movie. It's got its faults, it's got its flaws, but I had a lot of fun with it. I thought that the action was good. I still found myself compelled to watch it, and I felt like some of the action sequences at least made sense and were fair in the things that were established. I thought some of the writing was really good, and I liked it. I just didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to.
That's absolutely fair. I have a hunch that when we get to our scores that I will have liked it a little more than you. I think there are a lot of really great moments in this film that reminds me of classic Star Trek. One of them, by the way, you'll find this mildly interesting. When they get to the part at the end, by the way, when they're back, everything is over. It's they bring Kirk to his surprise birthday party, and everyone is there dressed down, casual clothing, having cocktails and just socializing. I had a flash of the Orville, frankly. I said to myself, this reminds me of a scene from the Orville, which, P.S., this reminds me of classic Star Trek. So yes. I really did enjoy that, and I think that was sort of symbolic of a lot of the positives of this film. I really do think that won't fast forward, but I think Simon Pegg deserves a ton of credit.
Is that music?
It's a good choice.
Hey, well played.
We got no ship. No crew. How are we gonna get out of this one?
We will find hope in the impossible.
Well, at least I won't die alone. Well, that's just typical.
And I'm going to let you go first.
Sounds good. I said it before that I think that this series really did show a lot of promise. Again, it's like the rock and roll version of Star Trek. Definitely not going to satisfy hardcore Trek fans, hardcore classic Trek fans. And I completely understand that. But I do sort of feel like it is kind of a modern take on Star Trek. And in a lot of ways, they get it right. And I really wish that whole Into Darkness just didn't happen. Because honestly, if they had gone right from the first one into this, I really think you would have had something that would have really, woken people up to Star Trek, to the magic of Star Trek. And there's a whole lot about this movie that I really like. A lot of things kind of a swing and a miss. Nothing that I found to be offensive, though. Minus the song at the end, possibly. But no, for the most part, I think this is a great film. And I'm going to give it an 8. Probably a little generous, but again, I kind of feel like it really does deserve the credit that it's due for the things it gets right. And I really do believe that's Simon Pegg. I keep saying that name over and over because I really do think that he was I think he was the creative force behind this that really brought it back down to what we remember classic Star Trek to be. It's definitely got those rock and roll elements, that's for damn sure. Some of it works, some of it does not. I kind of feel like shoehorning a motorcycle into this, I don't know. But having said that, I feel pretty comfortable with my 8. I think it's a very solid. I would call this a double or a triple. You know what I mean? I think it's a pretty well done film.
That is an honest score. I don't have a problem with that score at all. My biggest problem with this movie is I wasn't particularly caring where it might have led to, and all credit to Simon Pegg, absolutely. I believe he is the reason why this movie had more good parts than bad parts, especially compared to Into Darkness. I think honestly the biggest knock I'm giving this movie outside of the closing song is the villain. I'm getting tired of Star Trek villains, and I'm getting tired of motivations. In this day and age, motivations should not be flimsy and cliche. And the fact that his was bothered me, especially in a Star Trek movie. There is some story there that you can tell about a person as to why they would turn their back on Starfleet. Now, like I alluded to the fact that Edison was kind of like Marcus. Marcus was different because Marcus actually still believed in Starfleet. He just believed Starfleet was military. This was different. This was a person that basically turned his entire back on it, but did not give any good reason except for one quick scene of "you will pay" in a recording that they just happened to find just before the end. Okay, it's not good enough. Not good enough for Star Trek, at least. This was Star Wars. I would gladly accept that. It's like, because it's Star Wars, it's different. But this is Star Trek. Star Trek is supposed to be a higher caliber of science fiction. I gave this movie a 7, and again, it was originally an 8, but the Rihanna song at the end knocked it down a peg. Pun not intended.
So I will not be buying you a Rihanna CD for your next birthday. Okay, I don't have a problem with the artist Rihanna or Sia or any of the people involved with the song. I don't think that they actually had anything to do with this. They were probably just got a phone call. It's like, hey, we want to use one of your songs for Star Trek. Fine, whatever. And they took the payday. I don't blame them for that. You know, I blame the producers. I blame every single money person, all 7 of those frickin' production people who all had their notes and all had their things that they wanted in there. Hey, we want a bottle of Glenmorangie there. Hey, we want to make sure that Kirk, rides a motorcycle. Something like that. Yeah.
Some of the things just felt like put in there just so much by committee. I despise where movies are going with regards to that. And you know what? This is one of the reasons why people embrace the Marvel movies. Because is there a committee doing the Marvel movies? Absolutely, but it's a committee that wants to tell a story, not make sure that they fit in a frickin' Dr. Pepper commercial.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. I think that is a very fair score.
All right, Joe, who asked you, though? You want me to go first? I will happily go first.
Bring it on.
Okay, I had a list of them. I've already gone over the closing song. I've already gone over Edison as a villain. One of the other things that annoyed me, when Edison gets to that vent that he's supposed to be in, like, he is in that vent, and he has opened up the hatchway before they've even figured out who Edison is, and before Kirk has run off to try and catch the elevator. And gosh darn it, Kirk got there, and he's still standing there at the bottom of that hatchway.
Yeah.
So that kind of, that annoyed me. The other thing that annoyed me was I loved the bookending of Sabotage. Not only, they're sabotaging all the bad guys, so talk about, like, kismet with regards to a song. I love that they used that as the signal that was causing the beehive to, explode. I just found it a little too convenient, a little too Phantom Menace, that they just happened to figure out the solution, and it wasn't even that it just caused the ships to, like, kind of collide into each other. It literally would cause the ships to explode as they flew by it. And that kind of just felt a little too perfect a solution for me at the time. A little too, wrapped in neatly in a bow. It's, I feel like they could have done a little something, like, at least show that, like, when the song hit, because, like, they made it look like that when the song hits, that the ships just spontaneously combusted, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. They were trying to imply that the ships were out of control, and because there were so many, they were banging into each other and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
which is fine, but they didn't demonstrate that very well. I don't think they just went for the cool shot of all these ships exploding as the Franklin goes by, and hey, wouldn't you know it, they just happen to explode into each other. Thank the gods, not into the Franklin as it goes by.
Okay, I didn't really have a problem with that, and I thought that kind of, I get what you're saying, and
it's nitpicky. I'm agreeing.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, and I can see
and it's not actually my Who Asked You. I got one more, but go on.
Well, I think the word I would say was that it's a little corny. To again, I don't know. I thought it worked fairly well. I did sort of feel like using the same exact song that he used in the first one. Yeah, you could have been a little creative and come up with a new one, in the same genre. But like you said, the actual sabotage, because they were sabotaging the ships, I thought it worked nicely. I liked that they sort of worked the, like, there'll be like rises in the song right as they would show explosions happening. So there was rhythm to it. I mean, the visuals worked with the song, so I thought that worked pretty clever. But yeah, I'll give it to you.
All right, but this is honestly the big one, and this to me is the one unforgivable thing. This is the third time I'm bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen. So this goes to show you just how freaking annoyed I am. I am sick and tired of the moving goalposts as to what a transporter can do throughout these entire movies.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the fact that they're in a ship that's older, where the transporters were only originally designed for cargo, that basically Scotty jury-rigged to get working with people. Okay, and then was able to eventually get it to work with only 20 people at a time. Okay, I would buy that. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. But then the first thing you do is you beam Kirk and J-Law on the motorcycle as it's moving into that spot. So this device, this old device, is doing something that a modern transporter can't do. Because that thing was going a hell of a lot faster than that garbage scow was going into darkness, when I cannot get the lock on them. They're moving too much.
Yeah. I had this. Yeah, you're right. And also, what was bugging me is that at the last second, he grabs her hand, and
they both transport. Yeah, I have that on my list too.
Yeah. Almost as if like he's going to grab her hand. I almost felt like in the scene in the Infinity War when he shows up at the other side and the hand just drops. I felt like he should have just shown up on the other end with her hand and nothing else.
That would have been funny. Yeah, if you were still on the regular Enterprise, I would have forgiven it slightly. But on this older ship, you made a point to point out it is an older ship. It does not have the same type of shielding. It does not have the same type of torpedoes or anything like that. And the transporters were only used for cargo. Yeah, no, I'm not buying any of that, and it completely took me out of the movie. You needed to establish your transporter rules a hell of a lot better than you did in this entire series.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And by the way, well, go ahead.
No, that was it. That's it. I'm done. Go ahead, by the way.
You know what? I actually, you just kind of gave me a last minute change to my I'm starting to, I didn't quite understand it, because now if I'm understanding the story correctly, Krall, whoever, and his crew landed in the same ship that they escaped on? The Jefferson, is that what you called it?
The Franklin. It's called the
Franklin. Yet she, Jayla, takes over the ship. She finds it, makes it her home, sets up the camouflage on it. And I kind of wish somebody used the word cloaking device, because I thought, don't we know what a cloaking device is at this point? Why wouldn't you call it that? And they can't find her? They landed in that ship. They know where it is.
I'm not defending the movie. The first thing that you have to remember is, I don't know who the hell all those people are, because when that message, the last message that the Edison character gives, he says there's only 3 of us left alive.
Right.
The 3 are that woman that they sent out to have them come and get them, and his second in command, Manus. Those were the only 3 that were human, that were part of the Franklin.
Uh-huh.
Everybody else was dead. I have no idea who the hell the rest of the drones were or anything like that. They don't explain any of that at all. So, but I understand your question, because that was something that I thought to myself was, doesn't he remember that he has a spaceship on the planet?
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, and if the crew of the Enterprise can jerry-rig it to work, he couldn't do that?
Obviously not. It seems like a pretty big plot hole to me.
Yeah, but the fact that he can't seem to find them, and they're all on the very ship that he crash landed on, didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, that is kind of a huge plot hole, actually.
I mean, honestly, going back to what you said before, really, pretty much anything having to do with the villain is very muddy.
Yes. Very, very put there for convenience, not for compelling reasons.
Right. We need an adversary, so here you go, but there's no real thought put into it.
So is that your Who Yes You?
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I was kind of mirroring what you said about the villain. It was kind of lackluster, but then honestly, once I thought it out, I was like, wait a second, I think that's my new one. So, on the other hand,
for your consideration, I have 3, and I think the one that I actually chose for my consideration is going to be the one you're choosing for your consideration.
Well, probably, but I did find a little specific moment, but go ahead.
I'm going to, as I said at the start of this, I take it back. The banter here between the characters is top-notch, very in line with the original series. I loved every second of it. The other thing I want to bring up is the first 10 minutes, 11 minutes, I'm not sure exactly how long it was. I tried to get a timestamp. Whatever it was, that opening was the most Star Trek that's been in any of the Kelvin series. And I lapped up every bit of it like a hungry dog.
Nice. I agree.
But I am going to give some props to Simon Pegg, because I will say 100% beyond the shadow of a doubt, when this thing worked, it's because he made it work. I absolutely positively feel that beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Yes, and you're not wrong. That is exactly where my head was as well. I really do believe that he came up with a story that definitely, and you know, it's almost frustrating because frankly, he actually makes it look pretty easy, really. I kind of felt like, you know, watching what he knows about Star Trek, he was able to come up with a story that, for the most part, I think pleases everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean the powers that be, who say, well, we need action and we need this and we need spectacle, whatever. It's all in there. But he did it in a correct framework of Star Trek and gave us the things that we know and love about Star Trek. So again, why was that so hard? You know, I look at Into Darkness. I'm like, you guys, you know, you hacks that wrote this, you can't take 5 minutes to like look at a couple episodes of Star Trek and see what makes it tick, what happens in these shows, what do people like about this show. Was that really so hard? So thank you, Simon Pegg, for making it work. And just as my sort of official for your consideration, the moment that really kind of shined for me was when Bones and Spock are down on the surface. And again, I love the dynamic that they have in this because, again, they always had this kind of, bickering, but with a lot of respect and a lot of camaraderie, etc. And I think Pegg really gets it right. And the moment when they're on the surface, and I just want to credit the writing here, when they're down there and they're, Spock's been injured and now they're limping along, and but the moment where the enemy ships show up. And there's a great just a little beat where they're walking along, talking, and then all of a sudden you see the ships. And there's like the music kind of rises for a second. And Spock says something like, Leonard, throughout our whole thing and yada, yada, yada. Like all of a sudden the tone of the conversation just takes a very slight little turn to where this might be the last thing I say to you. Mm-hmm. But just that tiny little course correction in the conversation, wow, is that powerful. I really liked that. And I kind of felt like, it almost sort of goes completely under the radar. But it was a great, that tiny little shift in tone and how they're, because again, the conversation doesn't change drastically. There's no, well, this is it, and just in case this is it, it's been great working with you. No. Just that subtle little shift in what is spoken was so good. So I really think Pegg deserves a lot of credit for the writing in this film. It is really well done.
100% agreed. And I would even throw in there, let's give a little credit to Zachary Quinto and Carl Urban for playing the parts so perfect, pitch perfect during that moment.
Absolutely. I really wish that Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley were still around to see that, because I kind of felt like that's something that they would look at and sort of be, you know what, that's a nice little nod and little tribute to the days of yesterday.
Yeah.
So before we finish up, you know what I really wish I brought up either in the last episode or the one before that, because when we first talked about the first Star Trek, I remember how I kept kind of saying Star Wars when I meant Star Trek.
Yeah.
And you laughed because you said JJ's trying to do Star Wars. Here's my question for you. Do you think JJ what do you think he actually did better? Star Trek or Star Wars?
You know what, man? Can I say neither?
Yeah.
I mean, the first Star Trek he didn't do bad on, but, you remember my complaints. It's like, it just, there was a lot of Star Trek things that weren't in there that I missed. So, and you could argue the same with The Force Awakens. So, I don't know. I don't think, I feel like that is a show in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, honestly. But I'll tell you my theory, honestly, if I had to pick one, I honestly think, and again, the irony is that here we are, he would much rather be doing Star Wars, but he's doing Star Trek, so he makes it look more like Star Wars. But honestly, I feel like he got Star Trek a lot better. And I honestly felt like, at least the first one, not so much the second one, but in the first one, I at least felt like this was happening in the Star Trek universe. As opposed to, honestly, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and I'm going to use an overused expression, those felt like fan films to me. Like, these were sort of fan fiction stories that didn't really get Star Wars, especially the second one. But again, I can't really blame JJ for that one. But even in the first one, it really did feel like fan fiction, as opposed to the first Star Trek, which I honestly think he got better. I think he got a much better handle on Star Trek, frankly.
Maybe there's arrogance there. Maybe it's a case of, well, I don't really know Star Trek, so this person tells me Star Trek is this, and this person tells me Star Trek is that. I'm going to trust this person and honor that. Whereas with Star Wars, it's like, oh, I know Star Wars. You don't have to tell me about Star Wars. I know Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars is my jam. And he went in with his balls just kind of dangling out of his pants, thinking to himself, I know what to do here. That could be the reason why you see the difference between the two.
Could very well be. And again, I'm not saying that he did it spectacularly by any stretch, but I am sort of just saying, of the two, I think he got Star Trek more closely than Star Wars. But
there's an argument to be made for that, sir. There is.
But with this series done, oh my God, is it time? Is it here?
It is here, my man. And first of all, I just want to point out that actually we're not ending on such a sour note, because we kind of liked this last one.
Agreed. It's nice for a change that we finish out a series on a bit of a high note.
Yep. But now we're on to another, well, I suppose if it tracks as well as it's been doing, it's going to become its own series, isn't it?
Could very well be. Could be.
What are we seeing, Joe?
We are going to be back in superhero land for a while. Starting with next week, it's here, Shazam!
I am really looking forward to this movie.
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
You got your fingers crossed, don't you?
I'm still reserving judgment, and I still, it's funny. I kind of feel like I'm sort of amazed at how much I kind of pegged it when we saw the very first. It was the very first photo, frankly. And
you nailed it so hard. It was like it was like you found the girl of your dreams and you read her mind. That's how hard you nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, the one photo I said, remember the greatest American hero? And I feel like that's exactly what this is going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that's bad, but it just means
not at all.
It's a certain kind of story. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's see what they do with it. So, but yeah, I got my fingers crossed.
As do I, my man. As do I. That's right. Next week is Shazam. The week after is Hulk. The week after that, The Incredible Hulk. And then we top it off with Avengers Endgame. That's the next 4 weeks, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
So until next time, my man, thank you so much. great series, I feel. I feel like we still didn't even cover enough with all of these movies.
Yeah. Agreed.
So have a good week, my man.
You too. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page on patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
You cannot change the laws of physics. Laws of physics. Laws of physics. You cannot change the laws of physics. Laws of physics, Jim.
Oh, we come in peace. Shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. We come in peace. Shoot to kill. Scotty, beam me up.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead.
Well, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it. Not as we know it. Not as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. Not as we know it, Captain.
There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow. You cannot change the script, Jim. Up to you, Jimmy. It's worse than that. It's physics, Jim.
Bridge to engine room. Warp factor 9.